Hey guys, in this video we are going to be talking about how to graph linear functions using technology, specifically with a program called Desmos, which you might be familiar with from previous courses. So the biggest information that you're going to need to understand is what you see on your screen right now. So you have to be able to input a table into Desmos and then use Desmos to calculate the equation still inside of Desmos. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this table right here as an example, and we're going to input it into Desmos, and I'm going to show you how you can use the tools in Desmos to find the equation of the line and also have it graphed for you as well. So if you go over to Desmos, all you need to do is Google Desmos, and you're looking right here for this graphing calculator. When you click on that, the graphing calculator will open for you. Now we are dealing with a table that we need to have inputted. So what you're going to do is click this plus sign right here in the upper right corner, and it's going to give you lots of options. The one that we want today is the table. So I'm going to input that table from the slideshow, which can be found in Canvas if you would like to look at it. And we have 5, 96, 12, 68, and then we have 23, 24 as our table. Now right now, if you're looking at the screen over here on the graph part, you can't actually see the points that are in our table. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this magnifying glass, and it's going to fit our graph to the screen for us. And then what we want to do is we want to actually connect those points with a line and calculate the equation that represents the data points that we have put in. And all you need to do is click this button right here. If you hover over it, it'll say add regression, and that'll give us our line. Now, most of the problems that we're going to be dealing with are going to have context with them, which means it's a word problem. So we're only going to focus on what is in the upper right quadrant or the first quadrant. But for this example, since it doesn't have context, we don't have to worry about that at all. Okay, now in the problems that you're going to have to practice, what you're going to need to do with this information that you see on the screen is you're going to have to sketch a graph here. You can either use the scale that they give you right away, or I'll show you how to use different tools to change the scale or to zoom in and out to find a good fit for our graph. But when you put the table in, if you hit the magnifying glass, it makes it real easy, and then you can just sketch from there. So if I were going to sketch this graph, I would go ahead and just count by 20s, kind of like they did, but you don't necessarily have to have the lines in between like they do, and then count by 5s on the x-axis, and then since you'll have context, you'll also have to label the x and y axes. Now the nice thing about this is it also calculates the equation for you. You don't have to do any work. So it's this equation right here. It says y equals negative 4x plus 116. That equation represents this line. And that's it. That's how you would figure out the line for a given table. Now sometimes you're not given a table and you're actually just given a equation. So if I use the equation y equals 12x plus, I don't know, 6, for example, notice I can see the graph here, but it's kind of veering off up here. And again, the problems that you're going to be dealing with are going to be in context. So I'm going to be only focusing on the upper right corner, but it's kind of hard to see this graph. So I want to play a little bit with the x and y axis scale so that I can see the graph a little bit better. So when you want to do that, you're going to come up here to the right corner and click the wrench. And then underneath where it says x-axis, I'm going to go ahead and change this to a 0 because most of the time we're dealing with only the first quadrant. And then I'm going to change this x to, let's do, I don't know, 20. 20 will be okay. And then I'm going to change the y-axis as well. So I'm going to have that one go from 0 to, let's do 30. See how that looks. And I can always drag it to see if I can see it a little bit better. And you can always just keep going in and change the view until you get a good graph. I think this one's okay. So I'm going to count by 5s and by 2s, and then I'm going to sketch my graph. Now the second thing that you're going to have to do after you sketch is create a table of values that represents the equation that we're working with. And that's real easy to do too. You don't even have to calculate it. So as long as you click into the box and then click the gear or the settings, and you see how this pops up? and that'll create a table for you. Now again, the numbers that we're going to be dealing with here are going to be in context, which means I can't have negative x values. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to change those. So I already have 0, 1, and 2, so I'm just going to change this one to a 3, and you do that just by typing it in. And I'm going to change that one to a 4, and it automatically fixes it for you. So what you would do is you'd copy that table on your paper, and you'd be done. That'd be the end of the problem. All right, let's take a look at some with context. So I'm going to go ahead and clear everything out. I'm going to click this little house right here that'll put it to the default viewpoint. And let's take a look at the first problem. It says Reagan is saving money for a new gaming system. The table to the right shows the amount of money, which is Y, that Reagan has saved after X weeks. So we're going to use Desmos to graph the line that represents our table. And then we are going to sketch the graph on our boards or on paper, depending on what you're working with. And then we're going to find the equation that represents the situation. Now, I'm not going to be doing the sketching or writing the equation for you, but I will show you what it is. So let's go on over to Desmos and let's do the work. So if I want to input a table, I click the plus sign and then click table. And here's the data that we had. It was 3, 159, 5, 207, 6, 231, and 9, 303. All right, again, I can't see my points, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click that magnifying glass and have it zoom fit the area, and then I'm going to click the regression line. So if I went to go and sketch this graph, I would probably use the numbers that they have for me. I would count by 2s down here at the bottom and maybe by hundreds here, or if I really wanted to, it looks like it's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So maybe count by 20s as opposed to by hundreds, because 100 is a big gap. So count by 20s and sketch the graph. So I know that my intercept is right here at 0.87, so I can approximate where that is. And then it gave me some other points. Those are the ones that I put into the table. You can either use those or you can create your own. But it's easiest to just use ones that are given to you. So you'd sketch that graph, and then there would be a place where I ask you what the equation is, and all you would do is tell me this one right here. Y equals 24x plus 87. That's the equation that represents this line. And that's it. That would be the end of this problem. All right, so let's try one where I give you the equation, and you have to create the graph in the table from it. So here's the scenario. It says, as a candle is burned, it loses height. The equation y equals negative 0.5x plus 16 represents the height of the candle, y, in centimeters after burning for x hours. So we're going to use Desmos to graph the equation. We would then sketch the graph that you get on your board or on your paper, and then we're going to create a table from that. All right, so let's go on over to Desmos. I'm going to type in the equation we have, which is y equals negative 0.5x plus 16. And again, I can't see it, so we're going to have to fiddle a little bit either with the zoom keys, which are the plus and minus sign here, or with the wrench. So let's see if I can easily find it, and it turns out that I can. I'm only focused on the first quadrant, so I'm ignoring everything over here to the left and down here below the x-axis. Okay, so if I were to sketch this graph, I would probably start with the intercepts. So I have 0, 16, and 32, 0. So it looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They're counting by 2s down here on the x-axis, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 2s on the y-axis as well. So that's what I would count by when sketching my graph. And then you can just use those two intercepts and then connect the line, or excuse me, connect the dots. And that would be your sketch. Then what you would do is you'd come back up here, click in the box again, then click the gear and the table, and it creates a table for you. But remember, we don't want negative values, so we're going to change these top two x values. So I have 0, 1, 2. I'm going to change this one to 3 and this one to 4. You see how it moves the dots for me over here? Now I only have positive values. Then I would take that table and I would copy it down on my paper, and I would be done. And that's it, guys. That's how you use Desmos to represent linear functions.